Hello and welcome back to another episode of a Help Us Here podcast brought to you by the Beyond Compulsion Academy. Today I'm going to be talking about why motivation is utterly pointless after a relapse. Now, I used to relapse on the no-fap streaks, and every single time I'd be like, all right, that was the last time. I'm never doing that again. This is it now. I quit. All right, this is it. And I'd have all this like momentum and motivation, and I'd be feeling annoyed at myself for relapsing, like obviously really frustrated, but I'd also be like, okay, this is it. Like, I'm actually going to solve this problem for good. And I'd like start a new counter on my phone on one of these like apps, or I'd go on this app called Brain Buddy and like start the new counter there, maybe write a motivational post or some shit, write my journey, like, okay, day one, and I'd literally write that down in my journey, in my journal. And then what would happen is, like, obviously a few days, a few weeks go by, I'd forget about how shit I felt after relapsing, and I'd have all these junky thoughts, and I'd really be wanting to go ahead and relapse. And it was almost like everything that had happened when I'd relapsed and I'd felt really shit, and I was like, okay, that's the last time. It's like all of those thoughts wouldn't sort of come up in my mind at all, and all there was noise from the addicted part of the mind just trying to get me to relapse again. And of course I'd have these thoughts like, okay, I can't do this anymore, you know, this urge is getting stronger, like, when's this going to go away, like, maybe just one peak won't hurt. And then obviously I'd end up relapsing, and then I'd get the motivation and the shame and the, oh God, like, how have I ended up here again? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, this is the last time. I can never do that again. Never, ever going to do it again. Go on another streak. And it's just like round and round and round. And honestly, mate, this was just insane. Like, the amount of times I went round in circles, just learning more information, watching another NoFap video, consuming some semen retention shit, and being like, okay, that video is going to help me. And I'd have this motivation, then relapse, motivation, relapse. And I want to share this today because I received a message from a guy who's just joined the Beyond Compulsion Academy, but he's yet to watch any of the training. And he messaged me literally, I think, one day after he joined. I think he joined yesterday. And he's messaged me this morning and he said, like, hey, Tom, I've relapsed. Like, I feel pretty shit about it, blah, blah, blah. And straight away I was like, mate, you've not even got started on, like, the training. Like, you've not even watched the videos. Like, you've not even learned how to put the rational part of your mind in control in the moments that matter. And I was like, I wouldn't even call this a relapse at this stage in your trajectory of learning the Beyond Compulsion method. Like, I was like, why even call this a relapse? Like, you've just gone down the default route, the path that you've gone down probably hundreds of times in the past, because in those moments when you have these urges and you want to engage, you haven't got a way to deal with the addicted part of the mind. And so I think it's so important to understand that if you relapse, that motivation isn't going to get you anywhere. And what you need instead is a way to re-engage the rational part of your mind when you inevitably have a compulsive desire again in the future. Because right after relapse, you may be hit by all those consequences, and it may be at the forefront of your mind how horrible you end up feeling from watching pornography. But those thoughts dissipate and they're no longer there when in a few days or a few weeks' time you want to engage in that compulsive behaviour again. And so it's really about preparing yourself in a very rational way for the moments of compulsive desire, rather than simply relying on motivation and willpower and discipline and strength or any of that bullshit, which isn't actually going to get you anywhere in those moments you want to engage in the compulsive behaviour. So we need rationale instead to think through the choice in a logical, reasonable way and come to a conclusion for ourselves in that very specific moment of compulsive desire. I hope this makes sense, and I hope it helps at least one person maybe start to reconsider watching some of the motivational content, because I've been down that path and I can just tell you from experience, it might feel good in those moments to like watch some motivational video or have that motivation, but it never really lasts, and that's the problem. So hopefully this can shift your perspective a little bit. If you'd like to understand how much porn addiction is impacting your life right now, feel free to take the compulsion test and get a score out of 100. We'll leave a link below. Cheers, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.